Maybe the biggest challenge one faces in writing about human rights is that people aren't necessarily all that interested in reading about it. And so one has to figure out as engaging ways as one can to tell the stories. And whether it's through my column or books or videos, social media, trying to tell those stories in as engaging way as possible.
The skills that you learn in journalism are so important. First, they teach you critical thinking. You actually are constantly, as you're writing, possibly also as you're interviewing others, you're thinking about, is this person being straight with me? Does it corroborate with what the other person is saying there? Does it make sense? And then you have to fit it into a larger puzzle. So basically that kind of thinking is so useful wherever you go.
Sheryl and I will be speaking about our book, Half the Sky, about empowering women around the world. And the argument is that the best leverage one has to bring about change in the world is to educate and empower women around the world.
So how do we give uneducated women access to jobs? So one of the more popular things that people have talked about, in some ways it's been touted in many ways, it's microfinance. One of the most potent tools in microfinance is microsavings. Goretti is an example of a woman who lives in Burundi. She lives with Bernard and her husband, and Burundi is this gorgeous place. As you can see, it's a beautiful place, but has a couple of problems. One is that women, if they're married and they want to leave their property, they need to get approval from their husbands just to leave the property. And second, women are not allowed to touch cash. There was one program that Goretti had heard about in the village. It was a micro savings program, and so she had asked Bernard for approval to go at night to one of these meetings. He kept saying no. At the same time, Bernard himself would go off about 3 times a week to the local bar and drink banana beer, spending a little bit of their hard-earned money, and he would be drinking banana beer with his friends. So finally, Goretti said, I can't take this, I'm actually going to sneak off. She snuck off, she made a nice dinner for the family, and she snuck over into the village. And what happens is that every woman brings a dime, they pool the money, and then they decide to give it to lend it to one woman for that month. And that month they decide to lend it to Goretti. So Goretti decided to actually invest in a potato crop. So she bought some fertilizer, planted some potatoes, and she actually had a really nice bumper crop. So she was able to pay back the loan, and she had some extra cash to invest it in something. She had about $2.50. What would you do with $2.50? You'd probably spend it on a Starbucks, right? She actually decided to invest in the only product she knew that would really sell, and that was banana beer. So she invested in a banana beer business. It actually did really well. She knew that she had some really dedicated clients.
You may know that one of the things that I did that ended up raising a lot of eyebrows in the journalistic community was at one point I ended up buying 2 girls from their brothels. This girl, Shreenette, I paid $150 for her. The girl in the white blouse there, Shremum, paid just over $200 for her. And I got receipts. I got written receipts. And when you get a written receipt for buying a human being in the 21st century, truly something is profoundly wrong. I set them up with organizations so they could start small businesses with local NGOs. And one of them, it worked fine right away. The other one, after a few days, she ran back to the brothel. It turned out that she was addicted to meth, which she got from the brothel. And we go back to Cambodia periodically. I thought she was just going to end up dying of AIDS in that brothel. But something happened, and that was because there was pressure on Cambodia from aid groups, from journalists, from the US government. Hillary Clinton raised the issue when she was Secretary of State a good deal on Cambodia. Well, because of that pressure, it wasn't that the Cambodian police actually closed down the brothels, but that the police began to demand more in bribes from the brothel owners to stay in business. So this undermined their business model. And so the brothel that Sheryl was in, it was closed and turned into a grocery store. And so the girls were freed, and Sheryl married a policeman who had been a customer at her brothel. And I think part of that is that if you want a steady supply of meth in rural Cambodia, a policeman is going to be your best source. So, you know, there's no real satisfying feeling of justice here. But at the end of the day, that brothel is closed. That brothel owner is no longer kidnapping these rural girls. And it's out of business.
I think that we just need to give another round of applause. Number one, to our featured guests.
Thank you.
Sheryl WuDunn and Kristof.
Thank
Engagement's
you.
still here.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.